Good evening. Guilty on all charges. The former president of the United States is now a convicted felon.
Within the past hour, a jury in New York returned 34 guilty verdicts on charges related to falsifying business records. CTV's Joy Malvin has the latest on this historic day in the United States.
After 11 hours and 43 minutes, the jury in Donald Trump's historic trial has reached a verdict. The jury found him guilty. He is now a convicted felon. The former president, Donald Trump, is a convicted felon. The former president was charged with 34 state felony counts of falsifying business records in an alleged scheme to hide hush money payments paid to Stormy Daniels and to hide that from the voters. This catch-and-kill scheme was aimed at suppressing damaging stories that could harm his 2016 campaign to win the White House. Trump has denied it all, says this is nothing more than political persecution. An acquittal would have been a massive win for the president. Now, here's the thing. He can still run for the White House as a convicted felon, and he expects to return to the campaign trail. The Trump team, the defense team, has said that they have already readied an appeal, and they will appeal this. Now, as far as sentencing is concerned, it's up to Judge Juan Merchan to decide whether or not he goes to jail or not. That is unlikely, simply because Donald Trump has no criminal record. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
As for Donald Trump himself, he faced the cameras moments after being convicted. This is some of what he had to say.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a so-respect DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win.
The 12-member jury deliberated over 2 days for less than 12 hours. Unanimity was required for any verdict. Trump and his team are expected to swiftly appeal. The judge has set sentencing for July 11th, just days before the Republican National Convention, when Republicans are set to select Trump as their 2024 nominee. As far as potential punishment goes for this felony conviction, the 77-year-old presidential hopeful could face as little as a fine, probation, or possibly prison time, but you heard Joy say there earlier it's unlikely. Trump said the real verdict will be on Election Day, November 5th. This historic moment raising the question, are voters willing to elect the candidate with a criminal record? All of this is unprecedented, and time will tell. Back here at home, thousands marched through the downtown today demanding the province reverse course when it comes to healthcare privatization. Protesters came from across the province, many bringing with them their own firsthand healthcare stories. CTV's Sean Leathong is live tonight on the lawn of Queen's Park with the latest. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, as many of those people who we heard from today were talking about the feeling that they've lost something, that their local hospital is closing down, talking about the staffing crisis, and they want that to be fixed.
Hands up! Hands up! They came by the thousands to the lawn of Queen's Park, demanding that the Ford government reverse course on healthcare privatization.
The solutions are here in front of us.
Natalie Mera, executive director of the Ontario Health Coalition, says privatization does not solve the current state of Ontario health care.
The Ford government is just driving the public health system into the ground. There are now millions of people who cannot get a family doctor. Staff have left. We have the worst staffing crisis we've ever seen.
What do we want? Healthcare! When do we want it? Now!
Led by members of the provincial New Democrats, protesters marched up University Avenue from Nathan Phillips Square, many sharing concern for their own healthcare service.
When my doctor is sending me notes to say I'll have to be paying for some things that I need for my medical conditions, that's trouble.
Traveling from all across Ontario, sharing their frustration with the state of the system.
In Fort Erie, our hospital has been turned into an urgent care, so we have to go 20 minutes out of our way.
I live a block and a half from the hospital, but it's not open.
This group from Chelsea says their hospital hours of operation have decreased in the past year.
I'm furious. My husband had a heart attack 2 years ago. And now, if he has another heart attack, it's going to be an hour to care.
The Ford government first announced that the province would allow for more private clinics in order to help with the backlog in surgeries in early 2023. Today, the health minister was asked about the rally.
I think we have an organization that is satisfied with the status quo, and frankly, our government is not.
Jones points to cataract surgery as an example of a backlog that's come down thanks to private clinics.
We want to make sure that people who want to have access to a primary care clinician have that opportunity.
But union leaders and advocates say the decision is leading to a fundamental shift that's creating the very cracks in the system we see now.
Because the provincial government is spending our money to open private hospitals that will rip resources out of the system.
Our public health paradigm is Canadians, not Ontarians. Canadians must cherish the value system. So to see it under such disrepair and it's deliberate privatization is very troubling.
And this group fears that the system is going in the wrong direction.
So with the large crowd that was here in front of Queen's Park today, there's no doubt that the government heard them. The question is, will it affect policy? Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. I'll set it back inside.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Just ahead on CTV News, the Prime Minister and Premier speak out about a weekend incident where shots were fired at a Jewish school here in the city. But the Premier's comments have him in hot water tonight. We'll explain coming up. But first, a man is dead after being struck by a vehicle this afternoon.
It happened in a residential area near Victoria Park in Danforth. That's where we find CTV's Beth McDonnell tonight. Beth, what do we know so far?
Michelle, family members were at the scene here a short time ago. They are devastated and were too shaken to speak on camera. They told me the man who died came from Pakistan to Canada 6 years ago for a better life. They say he worked in a factory and he was happy.
Along the side of this work truck carrying water, on the ground, there is a small pile of clothing. Toronto police say a man in his late 30s has died, a pedestrian who was involved in a collision with a truck.
I was inside the shop, I heard screaming. The guy was screaming at the driver to stop, and he was probably keep coming reverse. Yeah, that's really, really heartbreaking, I swear. Like, I was so upset, I was so sad.
Zabiate was having his car repaired across the street when the man was hit shortly before 2 in the afternoon. He looked over to see what the commotion was all about.
By the time I got there, the vehicle was fully stopped, and the guy was underneath it already.
Officers say the man was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries and later died. His death now an investigation, with the collision reconstruction unit working to piece together what happened.
It is sad. It is sad. You know, nothing to say, but it's really sad. Actually, I don't even know the person, but I felt sad.
People working in the area say construction has been taking place here over the past 2 weeks. Police are looking to speak with any witnesses.
Tonight, police are continuing to inspect the truck that appears to have been involved. I also reached out to the company that appears to have been involved in this collision. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell.
All right. Thank you, Beth. And here's a live look outside. Lots of sunshine, clear skies, beautiful conditions this evening on the water or on land as this run of sun continues and the month of May winds down. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
A northerly wind kind of helped things feel a little fresher, not cold or cool, but just fresher throughout the day today. A southerly wind this afternoon is helping to warm things up, and there's not much in the way of any active weather across the entire province thanks to a few areas of high pressure. A little breezy, though, a southwesterly flow, winds sustained at 20 kilometers an hour, gusts a little closer to 30, so a warmer wind as we head into the evening. Still in that mid to upper teen range, and as we head through the evening, it is going to get really, really nice. Looking ahead to the month of June, this is what you can expect. It's pretty warm, and we're holding on to some seasonal weather to kick it off. Coming up, your full forecast. Right now, back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. It was a joint appearance by the Prime Minister, Premier, and Mayor to help kick off a new vaccine production plant here in the city.
But comments made by the Premier have many up in arms tonight. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight to explain. Siobhan.
Well, the Premier's words caused a lot of hurt, anger, even fear. The leader of the Green Party says what Doug Ford said is beneath his office. Ford tried to smooth things over with a post on X late this afternoon, but stopped short of apologizing. It was a moment to celebrate the opening of the biggest vaccine manufacturing facility in the country. But the Prime Minister turned solemn, describing what was going on a few kilometers away.
Parents dropped off their daughters this morning at a Jewish girls' elementary school that was shot at over the weekend.
Justin Trudeau relieved no one was hurt in that incident or in the targeting of another Jewish school, this one in Montreal, shot at yesterday.
I'm disgusted by these vile and despicable acts of anti-Semitism. It needs to stop now.
With the Prime Minister and Ontario's Premier pledging support for Jewish people. But it's what Doug Ford said next about those who target Jewish institutions that's ignited anger and calls for an apology.
You're bringing your problems from everywhere else in the world, you're bringing it to Ontario, and you're going after other Canadians, as the Prime Minister said. Unacceptable.
Ford has a warning for those planning to make this country home.
Don't come to Canada if you're going to start terrorizing neighborhoods like this.
Words that have hurt and frightened newcomers.
It is appalling. It is regressive. It is dangerous.
With accusations, the Premier stoking anti-immigrant sentiment by suggesting the school shooter was a newcomer without proof.
That is completely irresponsible. It's beneath the dignity of a Premier, and I believe the Premier should apologize.
These kinds of divisive comments don't make anybody safer in Ontario.
The Premier has to understand the weight of his comments, the weight of his office.
More than 5 hours after his initial statement, the Premier shared this message. Doug Ford writes about Ontario's diversity and welcoming people from all over the world. He says his comments were designed to stress that there's more that unites us than divides us, and that violent acts don't represent the province. For those who felt targeted by Ford's words, it's not enough.
You say something racist in the morning, which serves as like a wink and a nod to racists, and then a few hours later you issue a quote-unquote clarification, which is designed to silence your critics.
But the damage has been done. Toronto police have released surveillance video of a suspect vehicle connected to that shooting at the Jewish girls' school, but so far they have nothing to tell us about the people they're looking for. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. The province is making changes to what high school students will learn when it comes to life skills.
From financial literacy to home economics, it's an attempt to set students up for success with practical skills the education minister hopes could lead them to better jobs and bigger paychecks. CTV's Janice Golding has more.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce was at the Toronto Stock Exchange for today's opening bell, ready to make a big announcement about financial literacy.
We're elevating the importance of financial literacy as an equal prerequisite in order to graduate. Yes, you must be able to read and write in this province. You also have to have financial literacy.
They will come to appreciate how time and compounding work when saving money. However, if they owe money, they can destroy a financial plan.
The province says starting in 2025, high school curriculums will be changing. Grade 10 math will involve financial literacy. The ministry saying students will learn how to manage a budget, save for a home, and protect themselves from fraud. Students will be required to achieve at least a 70% grade to graduate.
These sound like wonderful changes. I think it's important to keep up with what's going on in society. As long as there's prep for it, I think that 70% is attainable.
Yes, it will help and they'll learn.
In the first major overhaul of the high school curriculum in 25 years, the province says it will also be bringing back home economics, part of a back-to-the-basics approach to the classroom.
Too many parents and employers and students themselves tell me that young people are graduating without the sufficient financial literacy or those basic life skills.
Home economics will help students understand the money mistakes that they may be making but shouldn't be.
Lecce says the objective is to ensure students graduate with practical learning that leads to better jobs and bigger paychecks.
I'm a parent. I have 3 kids, and yes, I'm with that. Yes. I love that, yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think kids need to learn how to manage their money properly. It's really important, especially with all the costs today and how high they are, because I don't think those are going down anytime soon.
The province says it will also modernize guidance and career education to respond to the way various professions have evolved over the last decade, and that starting next year, new career coaches with direct experience in high-demand sectors will complement the work of guidance counselors. Janice Golding, CTV News.
The University of Toronto's request for an injunction to dismantle a pro-Palestinian encampment won't be heard until after most of the upcoming convocation ceremonies are held. A judge has scheduled the court hearing for June 19th and 20th, saying it is the earliest it can be held in order to afford the respondents a fair opportunity to answer the application. School officials want the encampment cleared, saying it is causing irreparable harm to the university. The protesters are demanding U of T end any investments that support the Israeli military and cut ties with Israeli universities.
Like from my friends who are graduating, my thought is that they're very concerned about this, and they really worked hard. And honestly, U of T is a very prestigious and hard university, so you work hard. And the fact that they're pushing forward the convocation to later days, it's very hard for them, and they want to just graduate and go for their next chapter of life. So it's very hard for them. I understand how people they're feeling, but you cannot just always affect everything because of your own opinions. There should be consequences for everything, right? So I think this is really a bad thing, and I really hope that things can go well for Palestine and Israel, and be in a peace. That's my whole
The two sides had plans to meet again tomorrow to discuss a peaceful resolution to the demonstrations.
The Ford government is promising to hire dozens of new judges to help deal with ongoing backlogs in Ontario's court system. More than $29 million will go towards appointing at least 25 new judges, as well as nearly 200 prosecutors, victim support, and court staff. This is on top of $72 million spent to address trial delays linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. As some cases approach or even pass federal deadlines for being heard within a reasonable time, Attorney General Doug Downey says progress is being made in reducing and resolving cases before the courts.
One of the teen girls charged in the death of a homeless man downtown has pleaded guilty to manslaughter. 3 13-year-olds, 3 14-year-olds, and 2 16-year-olds were charged in the December 2022 killing of Kenneth Lee. Police say the 59-year-old was swarmed and stabbed by the girls. It's anticipated 4 of the other accused will plead guilty in the coming weeks. The remaining 3 are expected to stand trial, but a date has not been set.
Just over 25 years after a Toronto woman was murdered in Niagara region, police say they figured out who was responsible for her death. On May 8, 1999, police found the body of 26-year-old Nadine Gurchensky in the town of Lincoln. DNA evidence was found but couldn't be linked to anyone specific at the time. But with the help of advances in technology, police say they were able to use investigative genetic genealogy to identify a suspect. Raymond Brousseau, who was 34 at the time and died in 2017, would have faced a charge of second-degree murder if he were still alive.
This is an investigative tool now that will hopefully be utilized in investigations going forward, and even retroactively to investigations more historical, as you say, cold cases. And so we're grateful that this technology now exists and certainly will be utilized moving forward.
The family shared a statement saying, "We want to recognize that Nadine was an incredibly important part of our family. She meant more than a news headline. She was a beautiful young woman inside and out, mother, wife, and now grandmother who had her whole life ripped away from her and everyone who loved her. We will always make sure her memory lives on forever."
In the Middle East, medics in southern Gaza say Israeli forces killed at least 12 Palestinians in a dawn airstrike on Rafah. Israel pressed on with its offensive on the city a day after saying its forces had taken control of a buffer zone along the nearby border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. That gives the Israelis effective control over the territory's entire land frontier. The Palestinian telecommunications company Jawa says communication services have been cut off in Rafah due to what it calls the ongoing aggression.
The United Nations says the amount of humanitarian aid entering Gaza has dropped significantly following Israel's offensive in Rafah. The UN says 67% fewer supplies have made it in since May 7th, the day after the assault on the southern city began. Officials report there has been a daily average of 58 aid trucks reaching the territory, and that's compared to 176 trucks between April 1st and May 6th. Aid has been blocked with supplies piling up in Egypt since the offensive started, and Israel seized control of the Gazan side of the Rafah crossing. Israel and Egypt have blamed each other for the blockage.
The Israeli military has lifted a ban on the sale of food to Gaza from Israel and the occupied West Bank. Gazan traders were given the green light to resume purchases days after the assault on Rafah began. Private sector contractors are allowed to bring in humanitarian aid and food. Some of the goods are purchased by international organizations for distribution. Some of it is brought in to be sold. But Palestinian officials say 20 to 150 trucks have entered per day at the Kerem Shalom crossing, well short of the 600 the U.S. says are needed to address the threat of famine.
Buckingham Palace confirmed today the king will take part in his official birthday celebrations. The monarch is easing his way back into public duties while continuing to undergo cancer treatment. The main birthday ceremony is known as Trooping the Color and is scheduled for June 15th. It's a 460-year-old tradition in which troops in full dress uniform parade past the king with their ceremonial flag, also known as their color.
In Iceland, activity at an erupting volcano has calmed significantly over the past 24 hours or so. Lava is still flowing from the volcano on a peninsula in the southwestern part of the country. It erupted yesterday for the 5th time since December. Record levels of lava were recorded in the powerful eruption since its volcanic system became active 3 years ago. The coastal town of Grandavik was once again threatened, but protective barriers deflected the lava yesterday.
A whale has been freed in waters off Western Australia following a complex rescue operation. The 10-meter humpback had become tangled up in some fishing gear north of Rottnest Island. The rescue took 2 days as the initial attempt was unsuccessful. It was a difficult task because the fishing wire was wrapped around one of the whale's fins, through its mouth, and then around the body. But rescuers managed to tag the whale and tracked it overnight before finally untangling it today.
Also tonight, a national task force decides not to lower the age for breast cancer screening, despite expert recommendations that routine mammograms start at 40 instead of 50. The reasoning and concern from Canada's health minister coming up.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you want to send someone money, you can wire funds using your bank. But a Mississauga man says almost $12,000 U.S. has been missing in cyberspace for more than 3 weeks, and no one can find it. We investigate. That story is just ahead.
It's been a cooler few days, including today, but as we step into the weekend and the beginning of June, we step back into a more seasonal space when it comes to our forecast. Coming up, I'll have a full look, including what you can expect over the weekend. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Wiring money using your bank is usually a safe thing to do, and most transactions happen without any problems.
But sometimes a wire transfer can get rejected or go missing. And if that happens, getting your money back is not always easy. To tell us about it, here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. A Mississauga man had to send almost $12,000 U.S. to purchase a car. He wired the funds using his bank, but the money was never received. And for the past 3 weeks, no one can tell him where it is.
I still haven't got it back, and I do not understand why.
Adam Skochelos of Mississauga has a business helping people buy vehicles through online auctions.
I make wires for vehicles that are purchased on auctions in the States for clients from outside of North America.
He had a client in Poland who wanted to buy a car through an auction website, and Skochelos helped broker the deal. The client sent him $11,800 U.S., and he used the Bank of Montreal to wire the funds to Wells Fargo, a bank in the U.S. But the money never showed up.
The wire was rejected by the receiver's bank. For some reason, they didn't say why.
Skochelos says he was told the wired funds would be returned to his account within days, but after weeks of calling, he says the money has not been returned and is causing his business major trouble.
For me, every day is creating new problems. I mean, I'm about to get sued. I'm about to lose my my business. If the stuff gets out to the internet that I lost $12,000 of my client's money, I'm done.
CTV News reached out to the Bank of Montreal on Scotialas' behalf, and they agreed to look into his case. A spokesperson then told us, "We are pleased to share that the matter has been resolved." Scotialas says within days of contacting CTV News, the $11,800 US was returned to his account.
I just want to say thank you, CTV. Thank you, Pat, for getting my money back. You guys were great. If it wasn't for you, things could have gone a lot worse. You guys were awesome.
And when sending a wire transfer, it's important to make sure all the financial information is correct. There are cases where transfers go missing or they're sent to the wrong account and the funds are never returned. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Beautiful, bright sunshine all day and at this hour. For some, might be a little bit cool, but the good news is that tomorrow it's going to be sunny again and a little warmer.
Yeah, it's nice having this run of sun in the days. You can just see it. The days are longer, more daylight, which is nice as well.
It makes such a difference. And it's a little cooler in the evenings right now, so easier for some to sleep. I know maybe not everybody has AC, so the last few nights have probably been kind of nice. As we step in towards the last day of May, the beginning of June, it's a very gradual climb back to seasonal, and we're looking at a beautiful stretch of weather ahead. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've seen this brilliant sunshine throughout the day today and a northerly flow to the winds for the most part, keeping that humidity at bay. But right now it is warmer in northern Ontario than it is here in southern Ontario, thanks to a bit of a ridge in the jet stream pushing some warm air to the north. We will benefit from that eventually, just not right now. We're at 25 through Peawanuck, for example, and just 18 here in the city. As we head into this evening, another fresh one ahead of us. 8 for us. We should be at 12, but areas over towards, say, Owen Sound, Perry Sound, through Bancroft, between just 1 and 2 degrees. That's what's prompting still a frost advisory in those areas. But the good news is we do gradually warm up as we head in towards the end of the week. Your daytime high tomorrow just above seasonal. Today we were just below. And we turn that dial and go just above as we head into the day tomorrow, and high pressure holding firmly as we round out the work and school week. Easier to get outside, but also a UV index still on the high side, not a cloud in sight today, and that continues into the day tomorrow. Through the rest of our evening, it is quite beautiful, albeit a little fresh, a little cool as we head in towards our evening. Into the start of the day tomorrow, very little cloud cover, and that continues almost through the entire day. As we tiptoe into the beginning of June, the meteorological start of the summer season, that's when we see things shift a little bit. A little cloud cover rolls in into the afternoon. So your Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud to start, relatively dry. We get in towards 5 o'clock and the rain starts to move into that southwestern corner. The bulk of the shower activity is overnight and into the early morning hours tomorrow. As we approach about 11 a.m., the bulk of it pushes out, and then we will see some late day sunshine. So do not let it, dampen your spirits or rain on your parade, literally or figuratively. It is going to be really beautiful as we head in towards our weekend. Temperature-wise, we tiptoe back towards that seasonal mark through your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again, a nice start to our Saturday, a little cloud cover off and on through the day, and then it increases overnight. Likely some overnight showers. That continues into your Sunday. But don't worry, it's just a little rain for your Sunday morning. And then as we head into the afternoon, it clears out. And then we start to climb back towards that mid-20 range. And by midweek next week, highs well above seasonal. Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, former MP Lisa Raitt opens up about her husband's struggle and their challenging journey, how they're facing early onset Alzheimer's together.
A Canadian health task force is not recommending lowering the age to 40 for routine breast cancer screening.
Experts say following those guidelines will cost lives. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
Carolyn Holland got a double mastectomy, endured difficult chemotherapy and radiation treatment because she got a mammogram too late to make a difference.
At 43, I found 2 lumps, 1 in each breast, and I found them in the shower, just, showering. And at that point, because they were so large, because they were palpable, it meant that the cancer was already advanced.
Holland supports lowering the age for screening for breast cancer from age 50 to 40, but the Canadian Task Force on Preventative Healthcare says that's not necessary.
The story that the evidence is telling us is that the benefits of screening for breast cancer on breast cancer death in the 40 to 49 age group is much smaller than people think.
The task force analyzed dozens of studies, but this radiologist and head of Ottawa Hospital's breast imaging section says the group is using outdated information. Some reports are 50 years old.
If we just had looked at the recent trials, it would have been extremely clear. But because they insisted on using the old trials, it made it a much more dilute recommendation.
The task force says it's also concerned that earlier screening could lead to false positives and unnecessary treatment.
They recognize that as a potential harm. They're going through a procedure that might have risks such as bleeding, pain, infection.
The federal health minister wants the guidelines reviewed.
I'm deeply concerned with the way in which this process unfolded.
The task force isn't changing its guidelines at a time when the Canadian Cancer Society and nearly every province is lowering the age for breast cancer screening to 40. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Former Cabinet Minister Lisa Ray has been very public about her husband's battle with Alzheimer's disease.
Today, she invited our health reporter Pauline Chan to meet them and talk about the challenges they face and how they hope to help others.
Lisa Raitt married Bruce Wood, former CEO of the Hamilton Port Authority, in 2016, shortly after he was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's disease.
I wanted him to know that I wasn't going to go anywhere and that we were going to work on this as a couple.
Both Lisa and Bruce have had their own struggles with the physical realities and the emotions of dealing with an incurable illness.
I feel quite lucky. He's holding on pretty good. He's doing really well, actually, considering how many years we've been here with Alzheimer's.
Then around 2020, his condition deteriorated.
He would be aggressive, he would be angry, but it was because he was seeing, demons, and he was hallucinating, and he had delusions, and it's tough on him. So we always knew it was the disease and not him.
So at the start of the pandemic, Lisa was trying to manage using telehealth and other virtual resources, and eventually Bruce came to live at Baycrest Hospital's Apotex Center.
So we're at a stage right now, Bruce lost his ability to speak, aphasia it's called, about 3 years ago. And since then, he's lost a lot of the things that he used to be able to do on his own.
He has to be a little more careful now on his walks, but he still loves music and meeting people. And that's why Sunday's Bike for Brain Health is so important to them.
We're going to have 10,000 people who are going to take advantage of the DVP and the Gardner being partially closed so that they can get an incredible view of the city.
New this year is a family ride that'll start around 9:30 in the morning. And for that, you can do 10 kilometers. Then we also have Pedalpalooza, and Pedalpalooza is for the younger kids to come out.
Baycrest CEO Josh Cooper says it's not too late to register for the fundraiser or to support the riders, who will include 3 former Maple Leafs captains, this Sunday. And Lisa Raitt will be there too, supporting her husband and the thousands of families across Canada who are also dealing with dementia. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Provincial police say the first part of 2024 has seen an increase in the number of deaths on all-terrain vehicles. So far this year, 9 people have died in OPP-investigated ATV incidents. That's more than double than this point last year. More than half of the deceased were found without helmets. Ahead of ATV Safety Awareness Week, police say it's important to wear a helmet and ride sober and drug-free, no matter how much experience you have behind the wheel.
With the start of June coming this weekend, cyclists across the GTHA are gearing up for this year's annual Bike Month. It's been taking place since 1989, and dozens of cycling-themed events are scheduled for the next few weeks. Here in Toronto, Bike to Work Day is next Thursday, June 6th. Mayor Olivia Chow will participate along other members of City Council, and cyclists can join the ride at 4 separate starting points with the destination of Nathan Phillips Square. Full details are at bikemonth.ca.
A major Toronto hip-hop music festival has been postponed after organizers say one of its headliners canceled. Rapper Lil Wayne was billed as one of the top acts at the Hot in Toronto Summer Festival, scheduled for June 22nd at Downsview Park. But the festival notified ticket holders by email last week that Lil Wayne was no longer performing. A representative for Hot in Toronto says they're working on new festival dates and artists, while refund options will be outlined within 2 weeks. The festival was supposed to feature other big-name artists, including Akon, 2 Chainz, T-Pain, and Lil Jon.
After the break, he is Canada's most decorated military veteran. And at 100, he is returning to France for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We sit down with retired Major General Richard Romer.
Exploring Niagara Falls.
Our GLE is spending the morning getting a glimpse of the sights, sounds, and tastes that the area has to offer.
CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th.
Updating our top stories, Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. The former president was found guilty on all 34 charges against him. Trump will be sentenced July 11th. He could face a fine, probation, or possibly prison time. But this conviction does not prevent him from running for president or taking office once again.
My doctor is sending me notes to say I'll have to be paying for some things that I need for my medical conditions. That's trouble.
Thousands took to the streets of downtown Toronto to protest healthcare privatization. Protesters came from across the province, many with their own personal stories of navigating the current healthcare system and their fears of what the future could hold.
We're elevating the importance of financial literacy as an equal prerequisite in order to graduate. Yes, you must be able to read and write in this province. You also have to have financial literacy.
And the province announces changes to the high school curriculum. From financial literacy education to home economics, students will now see a greater focus on life skills and will need to achieve at least a 70% grade in order to graduate.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
WestJet and one of its pilot unions have struck a deal that should avoid a work stoppage that otherwise might have happened as early as this weekend. Amber Canwar has that story and more from the BNN Bloomberg newsroom.
WestJet's regional carrier airline Encore and its pilots union have hammered out a last-minute deal that should avoid a work stoppage that was set to start as soon as this weekend. A previous deal between the two sides fell apart when pilots voted against it, and the deadline for a new deal has been set for this Saturday. But late this afternoon, WestJet and the Airline Pilots Association announced that they'd reached a tentative agreement. Members must now vote on the new pact, but the threat of a strike and flight cancellations is seemingly over for now. Let's take a look at the market action. We saw the Canadian dollar flat around 73 cents U.S. U.S. oil prices slipping below $78 per barrel. Canadian energy prices also down around $67 per barrel. And it was an update on the TSX, adding nearly 175 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Canwar in the BNN Bloomberg newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The Bank of Montreal is dealing with the aftermath of a major online services outage. BMO's app and website were not accessible for several hours. Monitoring site Down Detector showed a spike in user complaints at around 10 last night. The bank says services were impacted by a false fire alarm pulled at one of its data centers. This morning, BMO shared an update saying, "Our services have returned online, although some customers may experience delays in transactions being processed and posted."
An alarming rise of auto thefts in the country is having a direct effect on insurance costs, even for those who did not have their car stolen. Insurance companies in 2023 were on the hook for more than $1.5 billion in claims to replace all the stolen vehicles. To make up for the losses, insurance companies are increasing the price on premiums for clients, particularly those who drive the most commonly stolen vehicles. Some models being affected include the Honda Accord, CR-V or Civic, a Ford F-150, and the Toyota Highlander.
A lot of insurance companies are offering significant reductions or a complete removal of surcharges altogether if consumers install aftermarket engine immobilizers, two-factor authentication systems, or a tag anti-theft system. Other companies are giving discounts as well. For example, if you have a steering wheel lock or retractable steel bollards in your driveway, but each company is going to take a slightly different approach to things.
And the Insurance Bureau of Canada says the majority of auto thefts occur here in Ontario, with the province being the first to reach the $1 billion mark in auto theft claims costs in 2023.
After a store closure left a large vacant space at a downtown mall, reports tonight suggest Italy will be stepping in with a new location. Nordstrom closed its stores last year across Canada, including its spot at the CF Toronto Eaton Centre. Retail Insider reports the Italian food marketplace and eatery chain will set up shop in the 223,000 square foot space. That'll mark Italy's fourth location in Toronto, including one at the Shops at Don Mills that opened today.
And not far from there, iconic New York burger joint Shake Shack has set the opening date for its first flagship location here in Toronto. The restaurant will open its doors at Yonge Dundas Square on the morning of June 13th, 2 weeks from now. The chain is promising some Canadian exclusive menu items, including the maple salted pretzel shake and the I Heart Butter Tart Concrete, their word for custard.
There's a three-way tie at the top of the leaderboard on day one of the RBC Canadian Open in Hamilton.
A 7-under 63 for Sean O'Hare.
Sean O'Hare's tied for first with Sam Burns and David Skins, all at -7. The top Canadian is David Hearn at 3 under. BC's Nick Taylor, who won the tournament last year, he finished the day at 2 over.
He first visited France at the young age of 18, serving his country with the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Next week, he'll return at the age of 100 to honor his fallen comrades as part of D-Day ceremonies. CTV's Mike Walker checked in with retired Major General Richard Romer ahead of his trip.
That was the squadron. All the pilots were older than I.
Major General Richard Romer is one of Canada's most decorated veterans.
That one right there with a cap.
He joined the Royal Canadian Air Force on his 18th birthday.
I always wanted to fly from the time I was about 3 or 4 years old. It was in the middle of a war. I decided that the place for me at that juncture.
Now at 100 years old, the honorary Lieutenant General of the Armed Forces will be returning to France to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day, where he took part in the campaign to liberate Europe during the Second World War.
What it means for me that I know it's the last one, because at 80th year, and at my age of 100, this is the last event that I can attend of this kind.
Romer flew in 135 combat missions as a reconnaissance pilot, playing pivotal roles on D-Day and in the Battle of Normandy.
I got that just as I was leaving my tour of operations.
And was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross.
I was being shot at from the time I hit enemy territory to the time I got back. And I flew through stuff I could see coming, but I only got hit once.
Over the decades, Romer has organized and participated in several D-Day commemoration events in Europe.
They lived and they died in order to give the people of the Netherlands freedom from the overpowering tyranny, deprivation, and starvation.
A trip he has made dozens of times, and will once again attend an event at Juno Beach and visit the war graves of thousands of Canadian soldiers at the Benny-sur-Mer Cemetery.
We lost a lot of people. So I think about the ones that I remember very well, but as well all of the great events that occurred that I had a part in, such as the cessation of the fighting war in Holland.
Each trip just as meaningful as the last. He says it's a reminder of the strong role and sacrifices made by Allied forces that laid the foundation for massive changes in the future of Europe and for the betterment of mankind.
D-Day means a celebration of the ultimate conquest of the enemy forces that led to peace and the stopping of the fighting.
Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
Just ahead, new state-of-the-art technology to better respond to aircraft emergencies. We take a look at the new rescue and firefighting trucks at Pearson Airport.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special Thursday shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
There are some new additions to Pearson Airport to show you tonight. These new state-of-the-art aircraft rescue and firefighting trucks are now officially in service. The trucks are used to respond to emergencies of many types and have specialized equipment to deal with aircraft-specific emergencies.
They've got high-reach extendable turrets called HRETs. This allows us to have an extendable boom and a system where they can actually deploy part of the firefighting system through the wall of an aircraft to put water and foam on the interior and begin to fight a fire. All the trucks are equipped with specialized equipment like forward-looking infrared cameras and thermal imaging. So there's very similar pieces of equipment, but we do have some specialized pieces for very unique tasks that we may encounter on the fire ground at an aircraft incident.
Each is equipped with a 12,000-liter water tank, which can empty in under 2 minutes. They can also reach speeds of up to 120 kilometers an hour.
The world's largest stegosaurus skeleton is being auctioned off. The fossil is estimated to be up to 161 million years old. It was discovered near the town of Dinosaur, Colorado in 2022. Sotheby's said this could fetch up to $6 million on July 17th. The fossil is about 30% larger than the other most notable stegosaurus. It's on display at London's Natural History Museum.
Pretty amazing.
That's cool.
How do you transition from that? Great weather if you're an archaeologist?
Yeah, if you're going to be digging in the dirt for science or for fun. It's a beautiful day today, beautiful day tomorrow, and really as we step into the beginning of June, it is going to be fantastic. There is some unsettled weather this weekend, but it is pretty short-lived, and to be honest, the little rain just helps the grass and the flowers grow. High pressure, though, we are benefiting from 2 areas of it, keeping us nice and clear really right across the province. It's still quite mild as we step into our evening for the kids. Lots of sunshine tomorrow, and as we say so long to May, heading into Friday. Fantastic. It doesn't get much better, guys.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.